Well, I don't know when you're reading your New Testament in a year today, whether it's the start of the day or the end of the day, but mine is at the end of the day. And I've just been reading it and suddenly found myself really challenged and encouraged by what Paul is writing here. And the reason for that is because I've been moaning a lot today and I've been grumbling a lot in my heart today. And this isn't the case, but this is how I've perceived it. I've been feeling like, oh man, I have to do everything and I've got a to-do list as long as my arm, and I've been having a little pity party for me. In my heart, and sometimes with what I've been saying as well, I've been really, really moaning a lot. And then you read what Paul writes in verse 14 of chapter 2. Do everything without grumbling or arguing, so that you may become blameless and pure, children of God without fault in a warped and crooked generation. Then you shine like stars in the sky. And that was like, oh, ouch. And I don't know how much more there is to say on it, other than simply, don't grumble and don't argue. And Paul, in contrast to our grumbling and arguing, is not just like, okay, keep your mouth shut. It's actually even further it goes on, and it says, Paul says, even if I am being poured out like a drink offering on the sacrifice and service coming from your faith, I am glad and rejoice with all of you. So you should be glad and rejoice with me. It's not just that he isn't grumbling, he's rejoicing that his life can be poured out as an offering before God. And it's easy to forget that Paul is writing Philippians when he's under arrest. He's under house arrest in Rome at this point. So he would have been chained to a guard more than likely, even when he was writing this letter. He was waiting to be put on trial. Ultimately, it doesn't tell us this in the scripture, but ultimately we think that he was probably killed after being put on trial, probably around 64 AD. We think he was beheaded. And so this is he's writing this in a pretty bleak place. And yet this guy who's under arrest, who's been through all the suffering that Paul went through, is able to be glad that his life is being poured out. So if you're feeling a little bit sorry for yourself, if you're having a little bit of a pity party, maybe read this passage again, consider Paul's example, and let us follow him as he follows Christ.